Let's get into today's news from Australia, and we'll start with some of the astonishing measures being taken in South Australia, where people are being herded into quarantine facilities who are not overseas arrivals or positive cases, but just people who have been to an exposure site that the government has deemed a super spreader event. Here's South Australian Premier Stephen Marshall.
There are two new cases, a brother and sister in their 20s who attended the Tenerife Creek winery on the weekend. So just two new cases. And of course, I'm cautiously optimistic, but a huge number of results that have come in over the last 24 hours. And that's what our report is to you today. But we're not out of the woods yet. There's still a huge number of test results to come in. A huge number of people who are in quarantine.
Two cases, brother and sister in their 20s, super spreader event. I mean, is South Australia determined to out-crazy Victoria and New South Wales with its latest lockdown? The state has already instituted a 2.5 kilometre travel limit and has now ordered more than 200 people into quarantine facilities for merely being at an exposure site.
There were 91 people from the Greek on Halifax, from the Tenerife winery, which of course we've only recognised more recently to be a high-risk transmission site. There are 125 people that we have identified at this point in time. Because of these being a high-risk location, what we're doing at the moment is moving all of those people into the Medi Hotel facility.
That was South Australia's Chief Health Officer, Professor Nicola Spurrier. You'll remember her from her bizarre advice about footballs and pizza boxes. Now she's giving sock drawer advice.
Yesterday, a lot of people took your advice to reorganise their sock drawers. What's the husband's job today? And you might people are following along with it.
Oh, well, my dear husband had a lot of friends emailing him, asking him how he was going.
How fun. People being herded into Medi hotels, and that's what the media wants to know about. And we even had a "Where's Wally" analogy today.
My kids showed me the meme of the "Where's Wally" because of my red and white striped jacket. And I thought, actually, this is quite a nice thing to put up on our Facebook site, because this is what we're dealing with at the moment. We are trying to find that virus. And you think about the photographs in the "Where's Wally" and everybody's stationary. I want you to all stay stationary so that my team can find the virus, i.e. the "Where's Wally."
Each and every single draconian step in South Australia is being cheered on by the lazy media, drunk on fear and the boost in traffic from the daily case number announcements. There's not much focus on how many people are actually sick. For the record, there's one person in hospital in South Australia with COVID-19. No other state has ordered people who have tested negative into quarantine for merely visiting an exposure site. Why doesn't the South Australian government trust its people to isolate at home? Is this Australia or some dystopian nightmare? And where are the civil libertarians and human rights advocates? One can only hope that at some point sanity prevails and decent people stop tolerating these abuses of government power. But not to be left behind, New South Wales Health Minister Brad Hazzard was ramping up the fear and hyperbole at today's press conference in Sydney.
They're trying to make sure that they minimise the risk of those little kids to what is the most potent virus we've had probably on Earth. It's a shocker. It's managed to take control of the whole world.
What unmitigated nonsense. As a professor of paediatrics explained on this show earlier in the week, for young children, influenza is more dangerous than COVID-19. We are being led by some very foolish, mediocre characters in this country. It takes a brave leader to speak the truth, to be honest with the public about the reality facing us, rather than trying to scare the masses into submission. And in the current climate, it would take a brave politician, indeed, to make a decision at odds with the advice of public health bureaucrats. But it's time for the PM and every state leader to do that. The time for courage is now. They'll face a backlash from the fear-mongering media and the dialect quote experts who've found fame in the past 18 months. But Australians must go back to living, not just existing. It's not about letting it rip, no. but it's about developing a proportional, sustainable response where the damage of restrictions is weighed against the cost of increased case numbers.